Ralph's POV. The sound of my spikes hitting the track used to be the only rhythm that mattered. Breathe in, run, exhale, focus. That's how I've kept myself steady all these years. Precision, control, no distractions, except somehow there's always been one. Rowan Cole. Even just thinking his name is enough to mess with my pulse. 3 years ago, at the national trials, he stormed onto the scene like he owned the damn place. I remember lining up at the start line, calm and collected, every muscle tuned to rhythm. Then he showed up 2 lanes down, flashing that cocky grin. Blonde hair sticking out from under his headband, blue eyes that looked like trouble, and sunlight rolled into one. He caught me staring just for a second and smirked. "Don't look so tense, Robot Brooks. Try smiling for once, Robot Brooks." That was the nickname he gave me before we even crossed the finish line. He beat me by a fraction of a second that day, and the press turned it into a rivalry overnight. The truth is, I didn't hate it, not at first. He was reckless, where I was rigid, loud, where I was quiet. He broke rules I didn't dare test, and every time we faced off on the track, something in me woke up. I told myself it was adrenaline, competition, nothing more, but it wasn't. Because sometimes after a race, when the crowd noise faded, we'd share this split-second glance that felt charged. Like we both knew, the other was the only one who understood what it meant to want something that badly. The media called us the Storm and the Stone. They weren't wrong. One time, during an indoor meet in Boston, he tripped during a relay and took me down with him. We hit the floor hard, skidding across the track. Cameras flashed. He laughed, while my shoulder throbbed. I shoved him off, furious, and he just grinned through the pain. "Relax, Brooks. You like it rough anyway, I swear." I almost decked him right there. But that stupid grin? It stayed in my head for weeks after. So, yeah, maybe there's always been something between us. A current neither of us named. Now, standing on this same damn track, years later, I still can't shake it. The world's quieter today. Just the sound of my breathing. The steady slap of shoes against rubber. The kind of silence I crave. Until it breaks. The coach calls for a break, and I grab my towel, checking the sports headlines on the wall TV. And there he is again. Rowan Cole. In hot water. After club brawl, sponsorship at risk. I roll my eyes and take a long sip of water. Same pattern, different week. He's always been his own worst enemy. Wild, unfiltered, and incapable of keeping out of trouble. The footage plays in the background. Rowan stumbling out of a club, jaw clenched, eyes flashing at the cameras. Even through grainy video, he somehow still looks magnetic, like chaos wrapped in charm. I shouldn't notice that. I tell myself I don't. He's trouble, plain and simple. Always has been. But as I lean on the railing, catching my breath, that old irritation bubbles up. Or maybe it's not irritation. Maybe it's something else. Something I've spent 3 years pretending not to recognize. It's pathetic, really, how someone so opposite can live rent-free in my head. There were times we almost got along. Like at the last championship banquet when he showed up late, hair damp from the rain, and found the only empty seat was next to me. I remember rolling my eyes when he sat down, all charm and no shame. He leaned close and said, "You smell like hard work and self-restraint." I said, "You smell like bad decisions." He laughed, low, amused, warm. That's why we'd make a good team. I brushed it off then. But even now, remembering it makes something in my chest twist. Pathetic. I towel the sweat off my neck and glance at the TV again. The segments replaying the same footage. Rowan smirking at reporters before ducking into a car. Same grin that's haunted me through every training season since. I shake my head and mutter, "That idiot never learns." Coach calls my name, breaking the moment. But before I can turn away, I hear it. That voice. Low, teasing, unmistakably his. Miss me, Brooks? My fingers tighten around the towel. It can't be. But when I turn around, he's standing there in the doorway of the indoor track. Messy blonde hair, smug grin, gym bag slung over one shoulder like he never left. And just like that, 3 years of buried tension hits me like a sprint start to the gut. I took a breath, chest heaving, and turned, expecting a sarcastic remark or some nonsense about my training regimen. But what came out of his mouth? Something I couldn't have predicted. "I need a favor," he said, tone like he wasn't even asking something insane. My brow shot up. "A favor?" "Yes," he said, smiling that grin that made me want to shove him into the wall. "See, my new sponsor's really big on wholesome image, stability, the whole perfect athlete vibe. So, he hesitated, leaned closer, lowering his voice like we were conspiring to rob a bank. "I told them I was engaged." I stopped mid-stride. "You told them what?" "To you." I blinked, then blinked again, then took a step back, gripping my towel. My voice wavered, caught somewhere between disbelief and irritation. "You... what?" Rowan shrugged, casual, too calm for the absurdity he'd just dumped on me. "Relax. Temporary thing. You help me, you get publicity too. Good for both of us. Win-win." My stomach twisted. Publicity? For what? Him? Me with him? The thought made my skin crawl, but also something else I refused to name. "You're insane," I muttered. "You think I care?" He winked. I swallowed, trying to gather my composure. "No, wait. Yes. Absolutely." I stopped. My inner monologue went haywire. Do I punch him? Do I walk away? Do I agree? I remembered a flashback, our last joint media appearance just after a podium finish. Rowan had leaned across and whispered, "You know you secretly like me playing the bad boy to your perfect record, right?" I'd shoved him, face burning, pretending to scowl. But even then, my pulse had betrayed me. I shook my head. "Not now. Not now, Brooks." Rowan's grin widened. "Look, it's just optics. Pretend fiancé, photo shoots, interviews, couple-themed ads. I even told them you're the only one who could keep me grounded. And let's be honest, Brooks, you kinda already act like a husband in public anyway." I felt my jaw tighten. I did not act like a husband. I act like a professional. I cut myself off before the words escaped. And yet, God help me, I could feel a part of me heating up. That was infuriating. "You're ridiculous," I said, voice clipped, pacing a small circle. "And you..." I jabbed a finger at him. "Just barged here to..." I stopped again. He was watching me, amused, as if he'd anticipated this exact reaction. He laughed, low, teasing. And it hit me where it hurt. "Relax. Like I said, temporary. You help me, you look good, I look good, everyone wins." My coach appeared just then, clipboard in hand. "Ralph, think about it. Exposure could be good before the qualifiers. You're already solid, but extra media coverage won't hurt." I sighed, rubbing the back of my neck. The logical side of me hated this. The controlled, disciplined Ralph Brooks would have walked away and left Rowan to crash spectacularly. But the other side, the part that remembered that stupid flashback when Rowan had wiped sweat off my shoulder after a relay, when he'd smirked and said, "You're more fun than I thought," it hesitated. Rowan leaned in again, that grin wide and unapologetic. "Come on, Brooks. Admit it. You're curious. You want to see what it's like. The world would eat it up. And between us, we've already got history, haven't we?" History. That word hit harder than a sprinter's push off the blocks. The image of us colliding on the track 3 years ago, tumbling to the floor, him laughing as I swore I'd murder him quietly. Yeah, that history. The way he'd always gotten under my skin in ways no one else could. I groaned, exasperated. This is insane. Exactly. You're perfect for it, he said, grinning like the chaos incarnate. I hesitated. My pride warred with curiosity. My pulse betrayed me as I realized part of me wanted to see how far he'd push it. Finally, I extended my hand. You owe me for this. Rowan's grin widened, teeth flashing. He clasped my hand firmly. You'll get used to it, fiancé. I froze. The word hung between us, heavy and ridiculous. You're out of your mind, I muttered. Good. Wouldn't be me if I wasn't, he said, flashing that smirk that had haunted me for 3 years. And just like that, my life changed. 1 week later. The first time I stood in front of a camera with Rowan Cole as my fiancé, I wanted to disappear into the floor. Lights, flashes, and the ever-present pressure of a PR photographer trying to capture our chemistry. A concept that made me want to scream. I forced my jaw to relax, shoulders squared, because that's what I do. Controlled, precise, disciplined. My heart, however, had its own agenda. Rowan was impossibly casual. One arm draped around my waist before the photographer even asked, his body brushing against mine. He whispered something in my ear. Soft, teasing, irritatingly close. Relax, Brooks. You're killing me with that tension, I froze. I was hyper-aware of the warmth of his hand on my lower back, the scent of his cologne mixing with sweat, the little spark of heat crawling up my spine. Get a grip, I told myself. It's just a photo shoot, nothing more. Except every time the camera clicked. Every time he leaned in, every time he smiled like he owned this arrangement, and me, I realized I had no grip at all. During a group shot, he nudged me with his knee under the table. You're tense, he murmured. You gotta loosen up. I scowled and tapped his knee sharply. I'm not tense. You're reckless. Reckless is fun, he said, grinning. You might like it if you tried it once. I wanted to argue, but my pulse betrayed me again, quickening when his hand brushed my arm as he adjusted my sleeve. I hated that I noticed it. I hated that I wanted to notice it. A flashback hit me. Last spring, after a relay, he had cornered me near the locker room, all teasing charm. You take everything too seriously, he'd said, even victory. He'd leaned so close I could smell the faint tang of his shampoo, and my brain had short-circuited for a good 5 seconds. I shoved him away, face red, muttering that I didn't need anyone to tell me how to act. Yet, in private, I remembered thinking, I'd follow him anywhere. The present wasn't helping. We moved to a promotional setup. Mock living room, mugs, fake laughs. Rowan perched on the armrest of the couch, knees brushing mine, arm lazily resting along the back. The photographer shouted directions, telling us to look intimate, effortless, natural. Rowan leaned closer, whispering, Try looking at me like I'm the only guy in the room. My stomach lurched. I opened my mouth to protest. I'm not looking at you like that. But my eyes betrayed me anyway. I caught myself studying the curve of his jaw, the way his lashes shadowed those irritatingly blue eyes. I felt heat pooling in my chest, fingers tightening around the coffee mug I was pretending to hold casually. We laughed together at some staged joke. His hand brushed my forearm, again, and again. And every time that spark flared like fire against my ribs. I hated it. Hated him. Hated that he made me want to forget the cameras, the sponsorship, everything except him. By the end of the session, I was sweating under more than just the lights. My composure felt threadbare, my mind racing in ways I refused to analyze. I wanted to shove him, tell him off, tell him he was impossible, but I also didn't want him to leave. Later, in the hotel room, alone, I stripped off the pressed outfit and collapsed on the bed. My fingers lingered on the place where his hand had rested. Lower back, casual, deliberate, maddening. It's nothing. Just nerves. Professional stress. That was what I kept telling myself. And yet, even as I rolled over, my phone buzzed. I picked it up, expecting a text from my coach or the PR manager. Instead, "You're a natural fiancé, wink." I stared at it, blinked, cursed under my breath, deleted it, typed a sharp reply, deleted that too. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, hesitant, because part of me didn't want to ignore him. Another part wanted to scream at myself for even thinking about him. My heart wouldn't let me make up my mind. I tossed the phone onto the bed, buried my face in the pillow, and muttered aloud to no one in particular. God, he's infuriating. And somewhere in the tension, somewhere between irritation and the flash of heat that refused to die, I realized I wanted more. Not the publicity stunt, not the sponsorship, not the photos. I wanted Rowan, which was ridiculous, pathetic even. But I didn't move. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the phantom brush of his hand on my back. And for the first time since agreeing to this charade, I couldn't tell if my pulse was racing from anger or anticipation. 3 weeks later, 3 weeks into this ridiculous engagement, and I was convinced the universe had a personal vendetta against me. Everywhere I turned, cameras, reporters, social media, Rowan had managed to turn our staged relationship into a full-blown circus. And of course, he loved every second of it. During interviews, he leaned into it like a pro, always with that infuriating smirk plastered across his face. "Ralph's shy," he'd say. "Adorable, actually. He gets flustered when I kiss him." Flustered. My jaw clenched every time. He was doing it deliberately. On live TV, millions watching. And somehow I hated that it got to me. After the last interview, I cornered him in the green room, hands trembling with a mix of rage and something far more irritating. "You're impossible," I snapped, voice louder than intended. "Do you even realize how humiliating that was?" He leaned back casually against the wall, blue eyes sparkling like he knew exactly what he was doing. "Realizing what?" he asked, voice lazy, teasing. "That you're adorable when you're embarrassed?" I nearly lost it. But then, I didn't. Because God help me, he was right. My face burned, my pulse quickened, and I hated myself for noticing. "You're unbelievable," I muttered, shoving past him. My hand brushed against his accidentally, and I flinched like an idiot. He smirked. "See? Already reacting. I call that a win." That night was the gala, the sort of over-the-top PR event I would usually avoid like the plague. Yet there we were, photographed for magazines that would later run headlines like "Rowolf, the steamy engagement no one saw coming." Rowan leaned in, whispering something about how I looked good in a tux, and for a second I nearly choked on my drink. Every laugh, every brush of his hand along my arm sent sparks I had no control over. Later, as the band played a slow number, he tugged at my sleeve. "Dance with me," he said, almost casually. I froze. "We can't." "People are watching, and everyone loves it." "Come on, Brooks," he coaxed, his grin soft but coaxing in a way that made my knees go weak. Against my better judgment, I let him guide me onto the floor. His hands found my waist naturally, the music surrounding us like a bubble. I could feel the heat of him, the slight brush of his chest against mine. My mind screamed for rationality. Fake, PR, don't fall. But my body betrayed me at every step. He leaned closer, voice low and teasing. "Relax. You're doing fine. Fiancé, fiancé." That word again, heavy and infuriating. But wrapped in his tone, it did things to me I didn't want to acknowledge. We swayed together, almost effortlessly, though I could feel him smirking against my shoulder every now and then. One turn, and I was so close I could feel the faint brush of his lips near mine. My pulse spiked, my rational brain short-circuited. and I realized with shocking clarity how much I needed to close that distance. I cleared my throat, shoving off just slightly. "Rowan," I started, but the word sounded weak even to me. He tilted his head, catching my eyes. "Shy again?" I wanted to hit him and kiss him, both simultaneously. We danced the rest of the song like that, teasing, testing, dangerous closeness. His hands never left my waist, his body just a whisper away from mine. And I hated it. Hated it so much it made my heart race and my mouth dry. Finally, the song ended, and he pulled me toward the exit. Outside, the cold hit me like reality, sobering me just enough. I could still feel the heat of his hands on my back, his chest nearly brushing mine. I raised a hand to my wrist where his fingers had lingered and muttered into the chill night, "I hate you." But the tremor in my voice betrayed me. I didn't hate him. Not really. I'd never admitted it, not even to myself. And yet, staring into the dark street, shivering both from the cold and the memory of his body against mine, I realized something terrifying. I wanted him, far more than I should. It was infuriating, embarrassing, and utterly irresistible. Rowan, of course, didn't let me stew for long. He leaned in, grin mischievous, eyes sparkling. "Good. You know you want me." I shoved him gently, muttering, "You're impossible." But my chest still raced, and my fingers ached from the memory of his touch. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, every part of me replaying the dance, the brush of his chest, the teasing in his eyes, the near kiss. I told myself it was a fluke, nerves, an accident of proximity. And yet, deep down, I knew better. I didn't hate Rowan Cole. I was terrified of how much I wanted him. 3 days later. The morning everything exploded. I was halfway through warm-ups when my coach called me into his office with that look. The one that meant something had gone wrong. I didn't even make it through the door before I saw the screen. Headlines. Screenshots. A leaked email. Rowan Cole pitched his fake engagement to multiple athletes before Ralph Brooks said yes. The words blurred for a second. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of them, but it was all there. An actual screenshot of Rowan's email, dated weeks before he ever showed up at my training facility, offering his engagement deal to anyone willing to help him fix his image. My stomach twisted. Every photo, every public smile, every interview replayed in my head. And for the first time, it all felt filthy, staged. I walked out before my coach could say anything. I didn't trust myself to speak. The locker room was empty except for the sound of showers running and my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I knew he'd come. He always did. Like clockwork, chaos followed him. And then he walked in. Hair damp, shirt half buttoned, eyes already tired, like he'd been waiting for this. "Ralph," he said quietly. I didn't let him finish. "Don't." My voice cracked, sharp and cold. "Don't even start." He looked at me, jaw tense. "You saw it, huh?" I laughed bitterly. Oh yeah, hard to miss when the entire internet's laughing about how I'm your second choice. Or third. Who knows? "Ralph? Don't call me that." I slammed the locker door so hard the sound echoed through the room. "You think this is funny? You used me. You made me a joke." Rowan stepped closer, his voice low. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I was desperate, okay? I messed up. But it's not fake now. What we have, it's not fake." I froze, rage prickling in my chest. "What we have?" I repeated bitterly. "You mean the fake smiles? The staged kisses? The part where you humiliated me on national TV for being adorable? That?" He flinched, just barely. "No, I mean the part where you looked at me like I was more than a joke. The part where you..." "Stop." My throat tightened, and I hated how small my voice sounded. You don't get to say that. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. You think I planned this? That I sat there writing that email and thought, oh yeah, Ralph Brooks, the guy who can't stand me, he'll fix everything. Number. I was spiraling. You know how this business works. One scandal, and you're done. I was trying to survive. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the ache in my chest didn't let me. You could have told me, I said quietly. You could have said something. I wanted to, he whispered. But then it started feeling real and I... Don't. My voice cracked again and I turned away. You don't get to rewrite this now. He took a step closer. Ralph, please. You know me. You know what this means. I don't know anything, I snapped. Not after this. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. The air smelled faintly of sweat, chlorine, and betrayal. He looked at me, something raw flickering in his eyes. You think I don't care? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because part of me, the stupid, reckless part, did believe him. And that hurt more than anything. Finally, I shook my head and muttered, You used me, Cole. Don't expect me to play your game anymore. I turned, grabbed my duffel, and walked toward the door. His voice followed me, softer this time, breaking. I didn't use you, Ralph, he said. I fell for you. I froze mid-step, heart pounding against my ribs. I wanted to turn around, to scream, to ask why, but I didn't. I kept walking. You don't get to want me now, I said quietly, my voice trembling. Behind me, I heard him exhale. Soft, almost like a confession. I already did. The locker room fell silent, and I left him standing there, alone, with his half-buttoned shirt and his regret. The moment I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face, sharp and clean, but nothing about me felt lighter. My chest ached, my throat burned, and no matter how much I wanted to shove the feelings down, they kept rising. All I could think about was the dance, his hand on my back, the way he'd looked at me like I wasn't pretending. It had felt real, too real, and that's what made the lie unforgivable. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks of silence from me, 2 weeks of Rowan trying every damn way to get me to look at him again. He showed up early to training, stayed late after interviews, even left my protein bar with dumb sticky notes that said, "Don't die today, hero." I ignored him every time. The thing is, his attempts weren't loud anymore. There were no jokes about our engagement, no press antics, no sly smirks meant for the cameras. It was just Rowan. Quiet, awkward, maybe even guilty. And that was almost worse. Because for the first time, I could see it. His feelings weren't a stunt anymore. They were real, and that scared the hell out of me. Our public appearances were torture. We had to keep up the act even when we barely looked at each other. Every fake smile hurts. Every interview felt like walking through fire. The fans noticed. Our Rowolf breakup trended online. Some said I dumped him for someone new. Others said I was bitter because Rowan got bored with me. None of them were right, but I wasn't about to explain myself. Then came Leo. He started training alongside him. The rookie sprinter with a mouthful of compliments and eyes that lingered too long. He was charming, confident, and everything I wasn't trying to deal with right now. But he was persistent, and I didn't stop him. Maybe a part of me wanted Rowan to see it, to feel even a fraction of what I'd felt when I realized I was just a name on his list. Rowan hated Leo. You could see it in how his jaw clenched whenever Leo leaned close to show me something on my phone. Or how his voice got sharp during training whenever I ran beside Leo instead of him. Once, during a press interview, Leo joked about taking Ralph out for a drink. And Rowan's response slipped before he could stop it. "Careful, kid," he said, voice tight. "You don't have the stamina to keep up with him." The room went silent. Cameras caught every bit of it. My ears burned with embarrassment. I stormed off mid-interview, refusing to let the reporters see the mess brewing in my chest. That night, I didn't sleep. I hated that he still got to me. I hated that he looked jealous. And mostly, I hated that I liked it. Oh. 2 days later, during warm-ups for nationals, it happened. I landed wrong on a sprint start, sharp twist, flash of pain, and my ankle gave out. "Ralph's down," someone yelled, but the voice that reached me first was his, Rowan. He was the first to reach me, kneeling on the track before I even realized what had happened. His usual confidence was gone. His hands trembled as he brushed dirt off my knee. "You good?" he asked, but his voice cracked on the word good. "I'm fine," I muttered, trying to pull away. Just don't touch me." "Stop being stubborn," he snapped, but it wasn't his usual teasing tone. "You don't get to give up. Not after everything." He grabbed the tape from the med kit, his fingers steadying as he wrapped my ankle. There was something different in his touch, gentle but firm, careful like I might break if he wasn't. His eyes lifted to meet mine, and I saw it. The thing I'd been denying for weeks. "Let me help," he whispered. "For once, Ralph. Just let me be there for you." There were no cameras this time, no fans, no reason for him to pretend. For the first time since the lie, I didn't see the PR star Rowan Cole. I saw the man underneath, the one who looked at me like I was the only thing keeping him upright. When I stood on the track for the race, the pain in my ankle was sharp, but it wasn't what burned the most. I saw him in the stands, fists clenched, eyes locked on me like I was still his. And damn it, I ran. Not for the medal, not for the crowd, for him. When I crossed the finish line, chest heaving, the first thing I did was look for him. Rowan was there, hands cupped around his mouth, shouting something I couldn't hear over the noise. Then our eyes met. He mouthed, "Proud of you." The words hit me harder than the finish line. And right there, with sweat running down my neck and my ankle throbbing, I realized there was nothing fake left between us. Not anymore. 1 week later, a week after the nationals, the noise had finally died down. The sponsorship ended. The PR circus wrapped itself neatly. And I thought, stupidly, that life would slide back to normal. Except it didn't. I kept catching myself scrolling through old press photos. The ones where Rowan's arm was always a little too close around my waist, his grin too genuine for a man pretending. Every smirk, every accidental touch. It all replayed in my head like I'd been living someone else's love story. And maybe I had. So when the doorbell rang that evening, I half expected it to be some delivery. But it wasn't. It was him. Rowan stood there in jeans and a hoodie. Hair messy, eyes softer than I'd ever seen. No cameras, no charm, no spotlight. Just him. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice quiet. I should have said no. But I stepped aside anyway. He didn't waste time. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small ring box, and set it on my coffee table. Not flashy, not gold, just simple. Real. "This time," he said, voice trembling, "it's not fake." For a second, all I could do was stare. Then I laughed, short, breathless, disbelieving. "You're an idiot," I said, rubbing my eyes. "You really think you can just show up here and—" "Yeah," he cut in. "Because I don't want this to be about cameras or followers anymore. I want you. Even if you hate me for it, I should have been angry. But instead, I felt something unclench inside me. Weeks of tension, resentment, denial. It all cracked open. He took a step closer, hesitating like I might shove him away. But I didn't. His hand brushed mine, testing the space between us. My pulse stuttered. "You still fluster easily," he whispered, lips curving. "Shut up," I muttered, but my voice came out rougher than I meant. He grinned, and then he kissed me. It wasn't rushed, or staged, or careful. It was messy, real, desperate. I grabbed his hoodie, pulling him closer, tasting every word we'd left unsaid. His hand slid up my back, slow but certain, like he'd been waiting for permission to finally touch me like this. When we broke apart, both of us were breathing hard, our foreheads pressed together. "I guess that's a yes," he murmured. I huffed a laugh. "You know, I'm still going to beat you at trials." He grinned against my lips. "Good." I like a challenge. I looked at him then. Really looked. All the noise, all the pretending, all the rivalry. It had just been another way of running toward this. Toward him. Maybe we weren't rivals after all. Maybe we were just two idiots waiting for the same finish line. Epilogue 6. Months into officially being together, and we were already sitting under bright lights again. A press conference, cameras flashing, reporters grinning like vultures who smelled fresh gossip. Rowan looked entirely too comfortable. Legs sprawled, shirt slightly unbuttoned, that cocky smirk perfectly camera-ready. Meanwhile, I was trying very hard not to combust. "So," one reporter started, smiling like she knew too much. "You two fooled the entire nation with a fake engagement, and now it's real?" Rowan leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand. "Guess we're just bad at pretending," he said smoothly, shooting me a look that made my stomach twist. I rolled my eyes, muttering, "You're bad at keeping your mouth shut." The crowd laughed. Someone yelled, "So who confessed first?" Rowan pointed at me instantly. "Him." My head snapped around. "What?" "No, you did." "Oh, please, Brooks," he said, flashing that grin that could melt glaciers. "You basically confessed when you didn't punch me after the whole fake fiancé stunt." "That's not a confession," I shot back. "It is in athlete language," he countered. The reporters were eating it up. Every camera flash caught his smirk and my exasperated glare. God, we were doomed. One asked, "So how does it feel to finally make it official?" I hesitated, but Rowan jumped in again. "Honestly? Like crossing a finish line you didn't know you were running toward." I froze. The room did too. For once, there was no smirk behind his words. Just honesty. Raw and stupidly sincere. I didn't trust my voice, so I just looked at him. He smiled at me. Small, real, and yeah. I was done for. After that, the rest blurred. Cameras, questions, laughter. And then, finally, freedom. We stepped outside into the cool night, the sound of photographers shouting our names echoing behind us. Rowan's hand brushed mine once, then again, until he caught it fully. "Come here," he whispered, tugging me toward the parking lot. "Rowan, we just left the press." "Exactly why you need to shut up for once." He yanked me behind our car, away from the lights, his grin dangerous in the shadows. "You handled yourself well in there," he murmured, stepping closer. "I only handled it because you wouldn't shut up," I muttered. But my voice cracked a little when he pressed me against the car door. You love it when I don't shut up, Rowan." And then he kissed me. Hard. Deep. The kind of kiss that rewired my entire system. His hands framed my jaw. My fingers twisted into his shirt. And for a moment, the whole world felt like it had gone quiet. Just his mouth, his breath, his stupid racing heartbeat against mine. It wasn't until we heard the unmistakable click, click, click of camera shutters that we both froze. Rowan groaned, forehead dropping to my shoulder. "You've got to be kidding me." I glanced over his shoulder and, yep. A paparazzi crouched behind a bush. Camera lens pointed straight at us. "Perfect," I muttered. "We're about to trend again." Rowan just laughed, breathless. Let them. Maybe this time they'll get the headline right. He kissed me again, softer now, like punctuation to his words. The next morning, the internet exploded. Rawalf confirmed, "From rivals to lovers for real this time." Rowan showed me the headline, smirking. "Told you they'd love us." I threw a pillow at him. He dodged, still laughing. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel the need to run from him, or from what we were. He looked at me, grin lazy but eyes warm. "So, Brooks," he said, "think you're ready for our next race?" I smiled, leaning back against him. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Just don't expect me to let you win." He kissed my temple. "Wouldn't have it any other way." And maybe that was our thing. Still rivals, still idiots, still running toward each other. Only this time, neither of us planned to stop. The end. Have you ever ended up falling for someone you were supposed to hate? Just like Ralph and Rowan? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.